The words sliced through the dinner noise like broken glass. "You're too old to be serving tables." Nathan Prescott's voice carried across the Harborview grill, loud enough for half the dining room to hear. "Should have made better life choices." Becca Lawson's hands trembled, for lobster plates balanced on her left arm. Her wrist brace dug into swollen skin. She'd served tables for 3 years without flinching at insults. But this man, this arrogant CEO in his $1,000 suit, had just said the words out loud that she whispered to herself every morning in the mirror. She steadied her grip. The plates didn't shake. Not one drop of butter sauce spilled. But her eyes locked on the woman beside him. The wife. Designer dress. Diamond earrings. Perfect hair. And that face. Becca knew that face. Her pulse hammered against her ribs. Her throat went dry. The restaurant sounds, clinking silverware, background jazz, tourist laughter, faded into white noise. 6 months ago, a different city, a mahogany conference table, legal pads, tears streaming down that same face. Catherine Prescott didn't recognize her. Why would she? Becca had been someone else then, someone important, someone with answers. Now, she was just the waitress. Too old. Bad life choices. Nathan tapped his platinum credit card against the marble table. Entitled, bored, waiting. He had no idea what was coming. Your support means everything to this channel. Subscribe now so we can keep sharing stories of invisible power that shock those who underestimate it. Becca set down the plates with practiced precision. The butter sauce pooled perfectly around each lobster tail. Not a drop spilled. Not after 3 years of doing this. The kitchen door swung open behind her. Steam rolled out, clam chowder simmering on the back burner, garlic butter melting for the scallops, bread warming in the oven. The smells had stopped registering months ago. Now they were just background noise, like the jazz playing through overhead speakers, like the tourists taking sunset photos through the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Casco Bay. Table 7 needs water. Tommy called from the line. He was 23, culinary school dropout. Best line cook the Harborview had ever hired. His station stayed organized even during Friday night chaos. Becca grabbed the pitcher. Her wrist brace caught on the handle. Pain shot up her forearm. She ignored it. She'd been ignoring it for 6 months. "You ice it yet?" Denise appeared beside her. Shift manager. 57 years old. Gray hair pulled back tight. Eyes that missed nothing. After the rush. "That's what you said last shift." Denise's voice dropped lower. "And the shift before that." Becca filled glasses at table 7. Smiled. Asked if everything was perfect. The couple anniversary dinner. She'd guessed right when she'd suggested the window table. Said yes. She moved to table 9, then 12. Her feet ached. Her lower back throbbed. The dining room was packed. Every table full. Waiting list at 45 minutes. This was the job. This was her life now. Tommy caught her eye when she pushed through to the kitchen. "That guy in the corner booth hasn't stopped staring at you." "Which one?" "Expensive suit. Looks like he owns 3 yachts." Becca didn't look. She'd learned not to look. Rich men stared sometimes. Usually they wanted something. Faster service. Extra attention. Validation that their money impressed her. It never did. Not anymore. "Order up," Tommy said. Table 14. Becca loaded her tray. Moved back through the swinging door. The harbor stretched beyond the windows. Boats bobbing at their moorings, seagulls circling. The last orange light of sunset painting everything gold. Portland's old port district on a Friday night. Every restaurant packed. Every bar spilling tourists onto cobblestone streets. This was peak season. This was when she made enough in tips to cover rent through winter. She delivered table 14. Checked on table 3. Refilled bread baskets. Her body moved through the routine. Muscle memory. 3 years of the same choreography. But her mind wouldn't settle. That man at the corner booth. She glanced over. Just once, just quickly. And something had twisted in her chest. Recognition. Or the ghost of it. Becca. Denise touched her elbow. Break. 10 minutes. Go ice that wrist before I make an order. The back office was cramped. Boxes of napkins stacked against one wall. Cleaning supplies on metal shelves. An ancient desktop computer that barely worked. Becca sat on the folding chair. Wrapped the ice pack around her wrist. closed her eyes. The sounds from the dining room filtered through. Laughter, conversations, silverware on plates. Normal, safe, predictable. Everything her old life hadn't been. 3 years, 4 months, 11 days. That's how long it had been since Becca walked out of Sterling and Associates with a banker's box and a security escort. She leaned back against the office wall. The ice pack numbed her wrist, but nothing numbed the memory. It came back in fragments, sharp pieces that still cut. The corner office in Boston's financial district. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the harbor. Her name on the door. Rebecca Lawson, senior partner, family law division. She'd been 38 years old. 12 years at the firm. 7 high-profile cases won. Clients who paid $600 an hour for her expertise. She'd specialized in asset recovery. The cases where wealthy spouses hid money. Offshore accounts, shell companies, falsified valuations. She was good at finding what men like that tried to bury. Better than good. She'd recovered $40 million for one client alone. A tech executive's wife who'd been married 23 years to a man who'd hidden everything. Becca had cracked it in 6 weeks. Found the accounts. Traced the transfers. Built the case so tight that the husband's attorneys had settled rather than go to trial. It had been brilliant work. Strategic. Meticulous. The kind of case that made reputations. Martin Sterling, the founding partner, had taken credit for all of it. Her strategy, her research, her late nights and early mornings. He'd presented it to the client as his own work, then promoted himself in the legal journals. Sterling's innovative asset recovery method. Like she'd never existed. When Becca confronted him, Martin had smiled, patted her shoulder, told her she was too emotional for partnership track, that she needed to learn how team dynamics work. She'd filed a formal complaint with the ethics board. 3 days later, Martin called her into his office. 2 managing partners flanked him. They had concerns about her billing practices, about her erratic behavior, about client complaints that didn't exist until that moment. They offered her choice: resign quietly or be terminated with cause. The panic attack hit in the parking garage. Her vision narrowed. Her chest locked. She couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The concrete walls pressed in. Her hands shook so hard she couldn't get her key in the ignition. Security found her 20 minutes later, still sitting in her car, still shaking. The attacks kept coming. In courtrooms, during client meetings, at her desk. Her body had decided that her career, the thing she'd built for 12 years, was a threat, something to run from. So she ran. Portland, Maine, the city where she'd grown up, where her parents had run a small bookstore before they'd retired to Florida, where nobody knew her as Bulldog Lawson or that attorney who had the breakdown. She'd legally changed her name. Rebecca Lawson became Becca Lawson. Small change. Enough to break the digital trail. The leather portfolio stayed locked in her Subaru's trunk. 12 years of case files, notes, strategies, everything she'd built. She couldn't throw it away, but she couldn't look at it either. So it stayed in the trunk, like evidence of a crime, like proof of who she used to be. The door chimed. Becca's 10-minute break had stretched to 12. She unwrapped the ice pack, rolled her wrist. The pain had dulled to a manageable ache. She pushed through the kitchen door, back into the dining room, and stopped. The corner booth, the prime spot, the table that required 48-hour advance reservations, had filled while she'd been in the back. 4 people. 3 men in business suits. 1 woman in a dress that probably cost more than Becca made in a month. The man at the center commanded the space. Not because he was loud, because he didn't have to be. He sat back, relaxed, one arm draped across the booth's leather seat. His suit was Italian, charcoal gray, perfectly tailored. His watch caught the light. Rolex Daytona, platinum, the kind that cost more than a new car. Nathan Prescott. She'd heard Tommy mention the name. CEO of Prescott Maritime Holdings. Portland's business elite. The kind of man who got the best table on a Friday night without calling ahead. He was talking to his associates, gesturing with one hand. The other tapped his platinum credit card against the marble table. Tap, 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 rhythmic, entitled. Becca's chest tightened. Not a panic attack. Not that. Just recognition of the type. The kind of man she'd faced across courtroom tables in another life. The kind who believed money was proof of worth. Then she saw the woman beside him. Blonde hair, diamond earrings, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She laughed at something Nathan said, but her fingers twisted the napkin in her lap. Small movement. Nervous habit. Catherine. The name rose from Becca's memory like something surfacing from deep water. Catherine Prescott. 6 months ago. Boston. Sterling and Associates. A consultation appointment that Becca had scheduled but never attended. She'd left the firm 2 days before the meeting, but she'd seen the intake form. Read the preliminary notes. Catherine Prescott, seeking representation for divorce. Concerns about hidden assets. Husband's offshore accounts. The attorney who'd taken the case had been Davis Montgomery. New partner. Ambitious. 27 years old and already bringing in high-dollar clients. Becca's hands went cold. Catherine didn't recognize her. Why was she? They'd never actually met. Becca had just been a name on a scheduling form, and now Becca looked different. Waitress uniform instead of Armani suit. Tired instead of polished. Invisible. Nathan's prescription bottle rolled across the table. He grabbed it quickly, slipped it into his jacket pocket, but not before Becca caught the label. Anxiety medication. High dosage. Interesting. Men who projected power that aggressively usually had something to hide. Denise appeared at Becca's elbow. Corner booth is yours. VIP service. Got it. Becca grabbed menus, walked to the table, smiled her customer service smile, warm, professional, forgettable. Good evening. Welcome to the Harbor View. Can I start you with drinks? Nathan didn't look up. He was scrolling his phone. Tap, tap, tap. McAllen 18. Neat. Certainly. And for you? Becca turned to Catherine. Catherine's smile flickered. Just water, please. Sparkling or still? Still is fine. Becca took the other drink orders, moved toward the bar. Her wrist throbbed. The dining room noise pressed in. She needed to stay focused. Get through the shift. Go home. Forget that Catherine Prescott was sitting 20 feet away, married to exactly the kind of man Becca used to destroy in court. Not her problem. Not her life anymore. She delivered the drinks, took their dinner orders. Nathan ordered the most expensive item on the menu, the 48-ounce tomahawk steak. Catherine ordered a salad, house dressing on the side. Watching your figure? Nathan's voice carried. He wasn't trying to be quiet. Good. We have that charity gala next month. Catherine's smile tightened. Of course. Becca walked away. She had 4 other tables. A party of 6 needing appetizers. 2 tourists with questions about every menu item. A regular who always asked for the usual and got offended when new servers didn't know what that meant. The kitchen was slammed. Tommy worked 3 stations simultaneously. The dishwasher had called in sick. Plates were stacking up. The sous chef was sweating through his whites. Becca loaded her tray for lobster plates. Perfect presentation. Butter sauce pooled just right. She lifted the tray. Her wrist brace shifted. Pain spiked. Sharp and immediate. She steadied herself, breathed through it, adjusted her grip, pushed through the kitchen door into the dining room. The corner booth first. She dropped these plates, then handle the other tables. Then maybe she could ice her wrist again before it swelled worse. She crossed the dining room. 20 feet. 15. 10. Her wrist gave out. Not completely. Not a drop. But she stumbled. Caught herself. The plates clinked together. The butter sauce sloshed. Nathan looked up. His eyes tracked her movement. Watched her struggle. Watched her right herself. His lip curled. You're too old to be serving tables. His voice cut through the ambient noise. Clear. Loud. Carrying. The tables around them went quiet. Conversations paused. Heads turned. Should have made better life choices. Heat flooded Becca's face. Her pulse hammered, but her hands stayed steady. She set down the plates. Not one drop spilled. Not 1 ounce of butter sauce out of place. The muscle memory of dignity. Denise materialized. Is there a problem here? No problem. Nathan waved dismissively. Just friendly advice. This work is for young people. Maybe your waitress should consider. Our staff is excellent, Denise cut in. Voice cold. Manage your voice. the one that ended conversations. If you're not satisfied with your service, I'm happy to. The service is fine. Nathan turned back to his steak. Like Becca had already ceased to exist. Becca met Denise's eyes, shook her head slightly. I'm fine. Leave it. Because she was fine. She'd heard worse. From opposing counsel who'd called her a hysterical woman in depositions. From senior partners who'd patted her head and told her to smile more. From men who believed their success proved their superiority. She turned to Nathan, voice steady, professional. I appreciate the career advice, sir. Can I get you anything else? The sea scallops are fresh tonight. Or perhaps the halibut? Nathan blinked. He'd expected tears, or anger, or submission. Instead, he got composure. The steak is fine, he said. Becca smiled. Excellent. Enjoy your meal. She walked away, back straight, head high, her wrist screaming, her heart pounding, but her face calm. Behind her, Catherine was watching. Becca felt it, the weight of her stare, but Catherine still didn't recognize her. And Becca's mind was racing, because Catherine had come to Sterling and Associates 6 months ago seeking divorce representation for asset hiding concerns. The attorney assigned to her case had been Davis Montgomery, and Davis had left the firm 3 months ago. Becca had heard through the legal gossip network. Abrupt departure. No forwarding information, which meant Catherine's case had been abandoned. She was facing divorce proceedings against a man who had money professionally, and she had no attorney. Becca pushed through the kitchen door, leaned against the wall, closed her eyes. Not my problem, not my circus, not my monkeys, but Catherine's twisted napkin, her tight smile, the way she'd ordered a salad while her husband ordered a $50 steak. Becca knew that body language. She'd seen it 100 times, in consultation rooms, across conference tables. Women who'd been made small, who'd learned to take up less space, who'd forgotten they were allowed to want things. Not my problem. She opened her eyes, pushed off the wall, got back to work. 20 minutes later, Becca returned to clear the plates. Nathan and his associates were deep in conversation. Business talk, contracts, shipyard regulations, maritime law. The clause is clear, one associate was saying. He was younger, nervous. They're asking for full liability transfer. In Mandarin, my translator couldn't make sense of the legal terminology. Nathan leaned back. Get someone who speaks the language. It's not that simple. Maritime contract law requires. I don't pay you for excuses, Nathan interrupted. Figure it out. Becca reached for the plates. Her hands worked automatically. Stack. Balance. Don't interrupt the conversation. The associate pulled out his phone. Scrolled. Here. This is the clause. The translator said something about joint liability versus several liability. But the distinction isn't. Becca glanced at the screen. The characters registered immediately. Legal Mandarin. Complex terminology. A liability transfer clause that shifted 90% of risk to Nathan's company while appearing to offer standard 50-50 coverage. Her mouth opened before her brain caught up. The Mandarin flowed out naturally, perfectly accented. That's joint liability, not several liability. For heads turned toward her. Silence. Becca's chest went cold. What had she just done? Nathan's associate leaned forward, responding in Chinese. You speak Chinese? She could backtrack, pretend she'd misheard, walk away. Instead, some suicidal part of her kept talking. Her Mandarin was flawless, technical, precise. The language of someone who'd spent years negotiating international contracts. The contract transfers 90% of liability to your company. This isn't a standard 50-50 clause. The associate's eyes widened. She's right. That's exactly what my translator was trying to explain. Nathan stared at Becca, really looked at her. For the first time all night, she wasn't invisible. Where does a waitress learn legal Mandarin? His voice was different now, not dismissive, curious, assessing. Becca's pulse hammered. She'd just revealed herself, partially, enough to be dangerous. She forced a laugh, casual, dismissive of her own skill. YouTube. I'm working on language apps, thinking about traveling someday. YouTube doesn't teach maritime contract terminology. Duolingo has surprisingly specific lessons. She smiled, picked up the last plate. Can I get you gentlemen dessert? Our blueberry cheesecake is excellent tonight. She walked away before Nathan could ask more questions. Her hands shook, the plates rattled. She pushed through the kitchen door and set everything down harder than necessary. Tommy looked over. You good? Fine. You look like you've seen a ghost. Becca grabbed her water bottle, drank. Her throat was dry. Her wrist throbbed. And Nathan Prescott was now wondering who she really was. Stupid. Reckless. 3 years of carefully maintained invisibility. Blown because she couldn't keep her mouth shut. She checked her apron pocket. The red fountain pen was still there. The Mont Blanc she'd received when she'd made senior partner at Sterling and Associates. The one she'd used to sign partnership agreements and courtroom documents and the settlement on that $40 million case. She should have thrown it away. Should have left everything from that life behind. But she'd kept it. Like she'd kept the portfolio in her trunk. Evidence. Or maybe hope. That someday she'd be that person again. Except she didn't want to be that person. That person had panic attacks in parking garages. That person had trusted the system and been destroyed by it. This person, Becca the waitress, was safe. Invisible. Small. She pushed back through the doors. Checked on her other tables. Smiled. Poured water. Took orders. Stayed busy. Stayed moving. At the corner booth, Nathan was watching her. Calculating. Figuring. She could see the wheels turning. At 9:30, they paid and left. Nathan left a 20% tip. Exactly. Not generous. Not stingy. Proper. Expected. Catherine lingered at the door. Looked back. Met Becca's eyes for just a moment. Something passed between them. Recognition. Or the beginning of it. Then Catherine was gone, following her husband into the Portland night. Into whatever life she was living with a man who had money and ordered $50 steaks while his wife ate salad. Becca cleared the table. Found a business card tucked under the water glass. Nathan Prescott, CEO, Prescott Maritime Holdings. Cell number handwritten on the back. She stared at it. Should throw it away. Should forget this night happened. Instead, she slipped it into her apron pocket, next to the red fountain pen. Monday night was slower. Post-weekend lull. The tourists had gone home. Only locals filled the dining room. Regulars who ordered the same meals every week. Comfortable. Predictable. Becca worked the early shift. 4 to 11. Her wrist felt better. She'd actually iced it properly Sunday. Stayed off it most of the day. The swelling had gone down. At 6:15, Nathan Prescott walked through the door. Alone. No Catherine. No business associates. Just him. Italian suit. That watch. An expression that said he'd come for a specific purpose. Denise seated him in Becca's section. Of course she did. Becca grabbed a menu. Water glass. Her customer service smile. Good evening, Mr. Prescott. Welcome back. Sit down. He gestured to the booth's opposite seat. I'm working. I'll tip you for the time. Sit. Becca glanced at Denise. The shift manager raised an eyebrow. Your call. Becca slid into the booth. Kept her posture straight. Professional. What can I help you with? Nathan pulled out his phone. Opened a document. Slid it across the table. Read this. Tell me what you see. It was a contract. Maritime shipping agreement. 20 pages. Dense legal language. The kind of document that required 3 attorneys and a week of review time. I'm a waitress, Mr. Prescott. I don't. Stop. His voice cut through her deflection. We both know that's not true. Read the contract. If you're right, there's a $500 tip in it for you. Becca stared at the phone. This was a test. An interrogation disguised as generosity. He wanted to know who she was, what she knew, how she knew it. She should walk away, refuse, protect her cover. Instead, she read. Her eyes moved through the clauses. Standard boilerplate, liability insurance, payment schedules, delivery timelines. Nothing unusual until page 14. Buried in a subsection about force majeure exceptions. This clause, she pointed, it nullifies your insurance coverage if weather delays exceed 72 hours. But it defines weather delays to include port authority decisions, which aren't actually weather. So if the port authority closes for any reason, even non-weather reasons, you lose coverage. Nathan leaned forward. Keep going. Page 17. The dispute resolution clause requires arbitration in Shanghai, but it doesn't specify which arbitration body. Whoever drafted this can choose an arbitrator after the fact, which means they control the outcome before you even start. Anything else? Becca scrolled to page 19. The termination clause allows the other party to cancel with 30 days notice, but requires you to give 90 days notice. Asymmetrical terms. You're locked in. They're not. She slid the phone back. Whoever drafted this is either incompetent or actively trying to screw you. I'd guess the latter. Nathan sat back. Studied her. Where did you go to law school? I didn't. Don't lie to me. I've had 3 attorneys review that contract. All of them missed what you just found. Then you need better attorneys. Becca stood. Can I get you something to eat? Or are we done here? Nathan pulled out his wallet, counted out $500 bills, set them on the table. You earned this, and you're going to tell me who you really are. I'm your waitress. You're a Harvard law graduate who specialized in contract review, or Yale, maybe Columbia. You've practiced for at least 10 years. You know maritime law well enough to spot jurisdiction traps. And something happened that put you here instead of in a corner office. Becca's blood went cold. He'd been researching, digging, getting close. That's a very creative story, Mr. Prescott. It's the truth. I'm a waitress who watches a lot of legal dramas. Now, do you want dinner or not? She walked away before he could answer. Her legs felt unsteady. Her hands trembled. In the kitchen, she leaned against the wall, breathed, counted to 10. Tommy appeared with a plate. That guy bothering you? No, just testing me. You pass. Unfortunately, Nathan came back Tuesday, and Wednesday, and Thursday. Each night, he brought a different document. Business contracts, partnership agreements, LLC formation papers. He'd slide them across the table, offer money, ask questions, and each night, Becca found the traps, the hidden clauses, the asymmetrical terms, the language that looked standard but shifted liability or control or financial risk in ways that would destroy his company 5 years down the line. By Friday, half the dining room knew what was happening. The regulars watched, whispered, placed bets on whether Becca would crack. Tell Nathan who she really was. She wouldn't. She couldn't. That person didn't exist anymore. Friday night, Nathan arrived at 5:30. Earlier than usual. He looked tired, stressed. The confidence had cracked slightly. He sat in Becca's section without waiting to be seated. She brought water. Your usual document review? Or are you actually ordering food tonight? I need your help. No pretense. No game. Just honesty. Becca sat down. What happened? He slid a thick document across the table. LLC formation papers for a new subsidiary. 3 partners. I'm putting in $15 million. They're putting in $3 million each. Before I sign, I need to know what I'm missing. Why not hire an attorney? I have 4 attorneys. They all say it's fine. He met her eyes. But you're better than all of them combined. And we both know it. Becca picked up the document. 50 pages. Dense financial language. Partnership structures. Profit distribution formulas. Dissolution procedures. She read for 20 minutes. Nathan stayed quiet. Let her work. The dining room buzzed around them. Denise handled Becca's other tables. Tommy sent curious looks through the kitchen window. But Becca focused. The legal language settled into her brain like coming home. This was what she'd been good at, what she'd loved, before Martin Sterling stole it, before her body betrayed her. She found it on page 38. Here. She pointed to a clause buried in the dissolution procedures. If the LLC dissolves for any reason, assets are distributed according to initial capital contribution ratios. You put in $15 million. They put in $9 million total. So you get 62.5%. They split the rest. Sounds fair. Look at page 12. The definition of initial capital contribution includes financial investment plus sweat equity value as determined by unanimous partner vote, which means they can vote to assign their early work an arbitrary value, inflate their contributions. Then when the company dissolves, they split assets evenly instead of proportionally. Nathan's jaw tightened. Son of a bitch. It gets worse. Page 43. the deadlock provision. If partners can't agree on major decisions, the LLC automatically dissolves, which triggers the asset distribution clause, which means they can force dissolution, inflate their contributions, and walk away with half your $15 million. How did my attorneys miss this? Because it's spread across 3 different sections. Individually, each clause looks standard. Together, they're trapped. Becca closed the document, slid it back. Don't sign this. Not unless you want to lose $7 million in about 18 months. Nathan stared at the papers, then at her. Who are you? I'm Becca, your waitress. No, you're someone who's seen this exact scam before, multiple times. You've built cases around it, destroyed people who tried it. He leaned forward. You're not just competent, you're legendary at this. Becca's composure cracked. Just slightly. I used to be someone. Now I'm exactly what you see. Why are you hiding? Because this, she gestured at the dining room, her uniform, her carefully constructed small life, is safer. Safer than what? She stood. Order food, Mr. Prescott. Or leave. But stop asking questions you don't really want answered. She walked away. Her heart pounded. Her wrist throbbed. The panic was rising. Not a full attack, but close. She made it to the back office. Sat down. Breathed. Counted. Reminded herself she was safe. This wasn't Boston. This wasn't Sterling and Associates. This was Portland. Her small life. Her protected life. When she came back out 15 minutes later, Nathan was gone. But he'd left the $500 and a note on the back of his business card. When you're ready to stop hiding, call me. Saturday afternoon, lunch shift. Becca's least favorite, because the kitchen ran a limited menu and tourists complained about it constantly. The door chimed at 1:15. Catherine Prescott walked in alone. No Nathan. No designer dress. Just jeans and a sweater. Hair pulled back. No makeup. She looked younger. Tired. Real. Denise seated her at the bar. Not a table. The bar, where people sat when they wanted to be alone, when they needed space to think. Becca was scheduled for table service, not bar, but she walked over anyway. Can I get you something? She asked. Catherine looked up. Her eyes were red. Recent tears. White wine. Whatever you have. Becca poured a Pinot Grigio. Set it down. Rough day? Rough here. Catherine took a long drink. You work here full time? Most shifts. You like it? It pays the bills. Catherine laughed. Bitter. My husband said you were too old for this work, that you'd made bad life choices. She took another drink. I think he's the one who made bad choices, and I'm the idiot who married him. Becca stayed quiet. Let Catherine talk. This was what people did at bars. Confessed to strangers. Spoke truths they couldn't say anywhere else. I'm getting divorced, Catherine said. She wasn't looking at Becca anymore, just staring at her wine glass. Or trying to. But my attorney dropped me. Just stop returning calls. And Nathan's legal team is burying me in motions and paperwork, and I don't. Her voice cracked. Becca's chest tightened. She knew this story, had seen it play out dozens of times. Wealthy spouse, hidden assets, abandoned client, systematic destruction disguised as legal proceedings. Have you tried finding another attorney? 3 firms turned me down. Said my case was too complicated, or they had conflicts of interest, or they were at capacity. Catherine finished her wine. Nathan knows everyone in Portland, everyone who matters. He's making sure I can't get help. That's illegal. Prove it. Catherine set down the glass. You don't need to hear this. I needed to get out of that house. Go somewhere he doesn't control. Becca refilled the wine without being asked. Her mind raced. Catherine had come to Sterling and Associates 6 months ago, seeking representation for this exact situation. Davis Montgomery had taken a case, then abandoned her, which meant Catherine had no legal protection, no one fighting for her, just Nathan's team systematically isolating her, cutting off her resources, setting up the divorce to destroy her financially and emotionally. Can I ask you something? Becca kept her voice neutral, professional. Why do you think your attorney dropped you? Nathan probably got to him, offered money, or threatened his career. He's good at that, making people disappear. The panic stirred in Becca's chest. Not for herself, for Catherine. Because this was exactly how men like Nathan won. Not through legal superiority, through intimidation, isolation, making sure their wives had no advocates, no protection. Have you talked to the Maine Bar Association? They have resources for... I've called everyone. Catherine's voice was flat, defeated. Nathan's been planning this for months, maybe years. He knows every move before I make it. Becca should walk away, take orders, serve lunch, stay invisible. But Catherine's twisted napkin from a week ago, the way Nathan had ordered for her, the tight smile that never reached her eyes. What if I told you, Becca said slowly, carefully, that there are attorneys who specialize in exactly this kind of case? Catherine looked up. Hope flickered, then died. I can't afford specialists. Nathan froze our joint accounts. I'm living on what I had in my personal checking, $3,000. That might cover a retainer for a public defender. Not every attorney charges the same way. You sound like you know. Becca met her eyes. I used to know a lot of things. About family law, about asset hiding, about men like your husband. Used to. Past life. Becca picked up the wine bottle. Another glass? Catherine shook her head. I should go. Thanks for listening. Catherine. The name felt strange on Becca's tongue. Too familiar. Too dangerous. If you need someone to talk to, about legal strategy, about what to look for in documentation, I might be able to point you in the right direction. Catherine stared at her, really looked at her, and for the first time, something shifted in her expression. Recognition. Not full, not complete, but the beginning of awareness. Who are you? Catherine asked. A waitress who pays attention. Becca smiled. My number's on your receipt. Call me if you need anything. She walked away before Catherine could ask more questions, before she could commit to something she wasn't sure she could deliver. But the damage was done. She engaged, offered help, crossed the line between invisible server and active participant. And in the back office, her leather portfolio sat in her car trunk, waiting. Tuesday evening, 7 o'clock. The dinner rush was building. Nathan Prescott walked through the door with another man, tall, 60 years old, silver hair, expensive suit that made Nathan's look cheap. He carried a leather briefcase, actual leather, hand-stitched Italian, and walked like he owned every room he entered. Becca's blood turned to ice. Richard Salazar, senior partner at Colton and Salazar, Boston's most aggressive family law firm. The attorney who'd once told the judge that Becca was hysterical for objecting to his client's hidden offshore accounts. She destroyed him in court anyway, found every hidden dollar, exposed every lie, made him look incompetent in front of his own client. He'd hated her for it. Denise started to seat them. Becca intercepted. I'll take them. You sure? You look like you've seen a ghost. I'm fine. She grabbed menus, walked to their table, kept her face neutral, professional, forgettable, but her pulse hammered. Salazar was here, in Portland, with Nathan, which meant, gentlemen, welcome to the Harbor View. She handed over menus without making eye contact. Can I start you with drinks? Macallan 18, Nathan said, and Richard will have Hendrick's Martini, extra dry, 3 olives. Salazar's voice was smooth, confident, the voice of a man who won by intimidation. You're new here? 3 years. Becca kept her eyes on her notepad. You look familiar. Her chest tightened. I have one of those faces. I'll get those drinks started. She walked away, steady, calm, but inside everything was screaming. Salazar couldn't recognize her. He'd known Rebecca Lawson, senior partner, aggressive courtroom presence, tailored suits and pulled back hair. He'd never met Becca, tired waitress, server's uniform, carefully maintained invisibility. But he was close, too close. She made the drinks, hands shaking slightly, delivered them without incident. Thank you. Nathan looked up. This is Richard Salazar, my attorney. We're discussing some legal matters. We'll need privacy. Of course. Becca started to leave. Salazar's briefcase tipped. Papers spilled across the floor. Damn it. He bent to gather them. Becca crouched automatically, helped collect the scattered documents, legal papers, motions, case files, and there, right on top, Prescott versus Prescott. Petitioner's motion to freeze joint assets. Catherine's divorce case. Filed 3 days ago. Emergency motion to freeze Catherine's access to their bank accounts, credit cards, investment portfolios. Becca's hands went still. The pages blurred. This was how Nathan would destroy Catherine. Cut off her money. Make sure she couldn't afford legal representation. Force her to settle for pennies while he kept millions. The exact strategy she'd seen 100 times. The exact strategy she'd built a career fighting. Here. She handed the papers back. Didn't let her face show anything. But she'd seen page 7. The asset disclosure forms. Nathan had listed $2.3 million in total marital assets. Real estate, retirement accounts, investment portfolios. She'd reviewed Nathan's business documents. She'd seen the numbers. His company alone was worth $15 million minimum, plus offshore accounts, plus shell companies. He was hiding at least $4.7 million, probably more, and Salazar was helping him do it. Thank you. Salazar slipped the papers back into his briefcase, looked at Becca again, squinted. Have we met? I don't think so. You just seem familiar. Nathan interrupted. Richard, the motion. You were saying? Salazar turned back to Nathan. Becca escaped to the kitchen, leaned against the wall. Her wrist throbbed. Her vision narrowed. This was too close. Too dangerous. Salazar was here, working Catherine's case. If he recognized her, she couldn't think about that. Couldn't spiral. She pulled out her phone, Googled Richard Salazar. His firm's website loaded. Listed accomplishments. Recent cases. High-dollar divorce settlements. All favoring wealthy husbands. Then she searched Catherine Prescott's case. Nothing public yet. But it would be. Divorce filings were public record in Maine. She was about to close her phone when one more search occurred to her. Davis Montgomery, the attorney who'd originally taken Catherine's case at Sterling and Associates. The results loaded. Davis Montgomery, formerly of Sterling and Associates, joins Colton and Salazar as junior partner. The date, 4 months ago, right after he'd abandoned Catherine's case. Becca's breath caught. Nathan hadn't just made Catherine's attorney drop her. He'd bought him, hired him to work for Salazar, eliminated Catherine's representation and gained access to every strategy, every document, every piece of information Davis had gathered during the consultation. This wasn't just aggressive litigation. This was systematic destruction. And Catherine was facing it alone. Becca didn't sleep that night. She sat in her car in the empty restaurant parking lot, the leather portfolio open on her lap. 12 years of case files, notes, strategies, templates she developed for tracking hidden assets. She pulled up Catherine's intake form from 6 months ago. She'd kept digital copies of everything before leaving Sterling and Associates. Technically a violation, practically insurance. Catherine had listed concerns, offshore accounts, shell companies, falsified tax returns, real estate held under corporate names. All of its standard tactics for hiding marital assets. Becca cross-referenced with Nathan's public business filings. Prescott Maritime Holdings, incorporated in Delaware. Subsidiaries in the Cayman Islands, the British Virgin Islands, Panama. Classic offshore structure. The kind designed specifically to hide money during divorce proceedings. She pulled tax records, corporate registrations, property deeds, everything that was public record. Piece by piece, the picture emerged. 2 months ago, right before filing for divorce, Nathan had transferred $4.7 million through a series of shell companies. 3 transactions. Staggered timing. Just under reporting thresholds. The money had landed in a Cayman Islands account under the name Prescott Family Trust. A trust that didn't exist 6 months ago. That listed Nathan as sole trustee. That named his mother, deceased 3 years ago, as beneficiary. A dead woman controlling millions of dollars. A trust created specifically to hide assets from divorce proceedings. Textbook fraud. The exact pattern Becca had exposed in the $40 million case. The case Martin Sterling had stolen credit for. She documented everything. Screen captures, timeline, transaction amounts, corporate registration dates. This was enough. Enough to prove Nathan was hiding assets. Enough to challenge his disclosure forms. Enough to blow apart his entire divorce strategy. But only if someone filed it. Only if Catherine had an attorney who knew how to use it. And Catherine had no attorney, because Nathan had systematically eliminated every option. Becca stared at the documents, at 12 years of expertise, at the evidence that could save Catherine. Her phone buzzed. Text message. Unknown number. This is Catherine. The waitress from the Harborview gave me your number. She said you might be able to help me understand legal documents. Can we talk? Becca's hand shook. This was the moment, the choice. Stay hidden, stay safe, or step back into the arena that had destroyed her. She thought about Catherine's twisted napkin, her red eyes at the bar, her defeated voice saying Nathan had already won. She thought about Denise's words. Women like Catherine need warriors. You were one once. She typed tomorrow, 2 p.m. Portland Public Library. Bring every document you have. She hit send before she could stop herself. The Portland Public Library was quiet at 2 o'clock on a Wednesday. Study tables scattered throughout. Computers humming. The smell of old books and coffee from the attached cafe. Catherine arrived 10 minutes late, frazzled, carrying a banker's box filled with papers. Becca had claimed a private study room. Door closed, blinds drawn, as invisible as possible. Thank you for meeting me, Catherine said. I wasn't sure you'd actually show up. Show me what you have. Catherine dumped the box. Papers spilled across the table. Bank statements, property deeds, tax returns, legal motions. Everything was mixed together, disorganized, overwhelming. Nathan's attorney filed this motion 3 days ago. Catherine pulled out the asset freeze order. I can't access our accounts. Can't use credit cards. I'm living on what I had in checking. Maybe 2 weeks before I'm broke. Becca picked up Nathan's financial disclosure form, the one claiming $2.3 million in total assets. Do you believe this is accurate? No, but I can't prove otherwise. What do you remember about your consultation with Sterling and Associates 6 months ago? Catherine went still. How do you know about that? Because I'm the attorney you were supposed to meet with. I was Rebecca Lawson, senior partner, family law division. I left the firm 2 days before your appointment. The silence stretched. Catherine stared, processing. Your bulldog Lawson? The one who recovered $40 million in that tech executive case. Was past tense. What happened? My senior partner stole credit for my work, then destroyed my career when I complained. I had a breakdown, left Boston, started over. Becca met Catherine's eyes. Your case was assigned to Davis Montgomery, who is now working for your husband's attorney, which means Nathan has access to every strategy you discussed during that consultation. Catherine's face went pale. He knows everything I was planning? Everything Davis knew. Yes. Then I've already lost. No. Becca spread the documents across the table. Because Nathan doesn't know what I know. He doesn't know I've spent the last 3 nights tracking his offshore accounts. He doesn't know I found the $4.7 million he transferred 2 months ago. And he definitely doesn't know that his waitress used to be the best asset recovery attorney in Boston. Hope flickered in Catherine's expression, then died. Even if that's true, I can't afford to hire you. I barely have enough money for groceries. I don't want your money. Then what do you want? Becca thought about Martin Sterling, about her name on that case file, about 12 years of expertise sitting unused in her car trunk. I want to watch Nathan Prescott realize he made a mistake, that he underestimated the wrong woman. She pulled out her laptop, opened to the file she'd built. I want justice. For you, and maybe for me. The door opened. Denise walked in, carrying 2 coffees and a determined expression. What are you doing here? Becca asked. Helping. Denise set down the coffees, looked at Catherine. I've been watching you at the restaurant, seeing how your husband treats you, how you make yourself small. I used to do that too. Denise. 1992, my husband filed for divorce, claimed we had nothing, hid everything in his business. I was 30. Thursday morning. Becca stood on Catherine's front porch. The house was smaller than she'd expected. Colonial style, modest, not the mansion Nathan's wealth could afford. Catherine opened the door. dark circles under her eyes, sweatpants, unwashed hair. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Calm. The living room was half empty, furniture missing, rectangular shadows on the walls where paintings used to hang. Nathan had already started dividing assets, taking what he wanted. He came yesterday with movers, Catherine said. She didn't sit, just stood in the middle of the empty room. Said he had a right to his property. His lawyer sent paperwork. Everything itemized. Everything claimed. Becca set down her briefcase. The leather portfolio. 12 years of expertise. I need to tell you something, and you're not going to believe it at first. Try me. My life stopped making sense 3 weeks ago. 6 months ago, you scheduled a consultation at Sterling and Associates in Boston. You were assigned to an attorney named Davis Montgomery, but you were supposed to meet with me first. Rebecca Lawson, senior partner, family law division. Catherine's eyes widened. Recognition dawned. The consultation form. Your name was on the scheduling paperwork. I left the firm 2 days before your appointment. Had a breakdown. Walked away from everything. Becca opened the portfolio. Pulled out documents. But I kept records. I kept tracking a case. And when you walked into the Harborview 3 weeks ago, I knew exactly who you were. You've been watching me this whole time? I've been watching Nathan. Tracking his asset movements. Finding what he's hiding. Becca spread papers across the coffee table. Bank statements, corporate filings, wire transfer records. Catherine, your husband didn't just hide money. He orchestrated this divorce months in advance. He bought your attorney. He systematically eliminated your options. And he's currently hiding $4.7 million in offshore accounts. Catherine sank onto the couch. Her hand shook. For $0.7 million? The Prescott Family Trust. Created 2 months before he filed. Lists his deceased mother as beneficiary. Holds assets in the Cayman Islands under shell company names. Becca pointed to the transfer dates. Every transaction timed to avoid reporting thresholds. Every account structured to be invisible during divorce proceedings. How did you find this? Because I've seen it before. Dozens of times. This is what I did. What I was good at. Before everything fell apart. Catherine picked up one document. Then another. Her breathing quickened. He told me we had 2.3 million total. That's what his disclosure forms say. He lied, and his attorney, Richard Salazar, knows it. I saw the pre-trial brief. They're planning to bury you in legal fees until you can't fight anymore, then force a settlement for pennies, while Nathan keeps millions. I can't afford to fight him. You don't have to. Becca met her eyes. Oh well. You just said you left the law, that you can't practice. I can't practice in Boston, but I can practice in Maine. I maintain my license. I just stopped using it. Becca's throat tightened. I was your consultation attorney 6 months ago. I left the law. I can't watch him destroy you. Not when I have the skills to stop it. Catherine's eyes filled. Why would you do this? You don't even know me. Because Nathan Prescott told me I was too old to serve tables. That I'd made bad life choices. And every day since, I've watched him treat you like property. Becca's voice hardened. I know what it's like to have powerful men steal what you've earned. To make you feel small. To convince you that you deserve nothing. I won't watch it happen to someone else. I can't pay you. I don't want your money. I want Nathan to realize he underestimated the wrong women. Both of us. Catherine wiped her eyes. When do we start? Right now. Pre-trial conference is Monday. I'm filing my appearance as your attorney tomorrow morning. Becca pulled out more documents. We have 72 hours to build a case that Salazar won't see coming. Can you get me access to Nathan's home office? Old tax returns? Business correspondence? He changed the locks. I'm not allowed back in. Does he have a storage unit? Safety deposit box? Anywhere he keeps records? Catherine thought. His office downtown. Prescott Maritime Holdings. I have a key. He doesn't know I kept it. Can you get in without being seen? His assistant leaves at 5. Building security knows me. They won't question it. Becca smiled. Then tonight, we're going to find every piece of evidence Nathan thought he'd buried. And Monday morning, we're going to walk into that courtroom and show Richard Salazar exactly what happens when someone fights back. Monday morning. Cumberland County Courthouse. Becca wore the suit she'd kept in the back of her closet. Charcoal gray, tailored. The one she bought for partnership meetings at Sterling and Associates. It still fit, barely. 3 years of waitressing had changed her body, made her stronger, leaner. But the suit remembered who she used to be. She carried the leather portfolio, red fountain pen in her jacket pocket. Catherine walked beside her, nervous, pale, but present. The courthouse smelled like floor wax and old wood. Becca's chest tightened. This was the smell that had triggered panic attacks. The environment her body had decided was dangerous. She breathed through it, counted steps, reminded herself she was different now, stronger. She'd survived worse than a pre-trial conference. The conference room was small. Table, chairs, window overlooking the parking lot. Salazar was already there. Expensive suit, silver hair perfect, confidence radiating like cologne. Nathan sat beside him. Surprise flickered across his face when he saw Becca. Ms. Lawson. Salazar stood, extended his hand. I didn't realize you were practicing in Maine. Becca shook his hand. Firm, brief, professional. Mr. Salazar, it's been a while. 3 years? 4? His eyes narrowed, calculating. Last time we faced each other was the Morrison case. You were with Sterling and Associates then. I've relocated. Interesting career move. From senior partner to... He glanced at her file. Small practice family law. Everyone needs a change of pace. The door opened. Judge Patricia Hernandez entered. 62 years old. 20 years on the bench. No-nonsense reputation. She sat without ceremony. Let's begin. Mr. Salazar, you filed a motion to freeze joint assets. Ms. Lawson, you've entered an appearance on behalf of Mrs. Prescott. I assume you have objections. Significant objections, Your Honor. Becca opened her portfolio. Mr. Prescott's financial disclosures are materially false. He's failed to disclose offshore accounts totaling $4.7 million. He's created fraudulent trusts, and he's systematically hidden the marital assets to deprive my client of her legal share. Salazar leaned forward. Those are serious accusations. Do you have evidence? Extensive evidence. Then I'd like to examine Ms. Lawson's credentials. She's been out of practice for 3 years. She's not qualified to handle complex financial litigation. Judge Hernandez looked at Becca. Is that true? I've maintained my license, Your Honor. I've kept current on Maine family law, and I've spent the last 72 hours reviewing every aspect of this case. Your Honor, I move to disqualify counsel. Salazar pulled out papers. Ms. Lawson hasn't practiced in 3 years. She has no recent continuing education certificates. She's not competent to represent. I know who Rebecca Lawson is. Judge Hernandez interrupted. I read the Morrison case decision, and the Chin case, and the Fitzgerald case. She recovered $40 million from hidden offshore accounts. She's arguably the most qualified attorney in this room. Salazar's jaw tightened. That was 3 years ago. Legal standards change. She hasn't demonstrated current competency. Then, here's my ruling. Judge Hernandez looked at Becca. Ms. Lawson, you have 48 hours to complete Maine's family law recertification course and submit updated continuing education documentation. If you do, you may proceed as counsel. If not, Mrs. Prescott needs new representation. Becca's stomach dropped. 48 hours. Recertification courses took weeks. CLE credits required attendance at live seminars. Your Honor. 48 hours, Ms. Lawson. This conference is adjourned. Judge Hernandez stood, left without waiting for response. Salazar smiled, gathered his papers. Good seeing you again, Rebecca. Shame you won't make it to trial. He walked out. Nathan followed. Neither looked back. Catherine grabbed Becca's arm. Can you do it? 48 hours. Becca stared at the empty conference room. Her wrist throbbed. Her chest felt tight. The panic was stirring. The old fear that she wasn't good enough, that she'd fail again. Then she thought about Nathan's smug expression, about Salazar's dismissive smile, about 3 years of being told she was too old, too broken, too finished. Yes, she said, I can do it. Becca didn't sleep Monday night. She sat At her kitchen table. Laptop open. Maine Bar Association website loaded. The recertification course was available online. 20 hours of content. Ethics. Recent case law. Updated statutes. Child custody guidelines. Asset division procedures. She started at 8 p.m. Watched lectures at double speed. Took notes. Highlighted key changes. Maine had updated its divorce laws twice since she'd left practice. New regulations on retirement account divisions. Modified alimony calculations. Digital asset considerations that hadn't existed 3 years ago. Her phone buzzed at midnight. Denise, Tommy and I are covering your shifts. Focus on the case. We've got the restaurant. Another text from Catherine. I believe in you. Get some sleep. Becca didn't sleep. She worked through the night. Coffee. Notes. Practice quizzes. The material came back faster than expected. Like muscle memory. Her brain remembered how to analyze statutes, how to parse case law, how to find the relevant precedents. By dawn, she completed 12 hours of content. Tuesday morning, she drove to the courthouse, filed emergency discovery motions, requested Nathan's complete financial records, subpoenaed bank statements, corporate tax returns, trust documents. Salazar filed counter motions, objected to everything. Called her requests fishing expeditions and harassment. Judge Hernandez reviewed both filings. Granted Becca's requests. Mr. Prescott will provide complete financial documentation within 24 hours. No exceptions. Becca returned home. Resumed the recertification course. Hours 13 through 20. Her eyes burned. Her wrist ached from typing. But she pushed through. Tuesday afternoon, Tommy appeared at her door, carrying food from the harbor view. Denise says you need to eat. He set down containers. Lobster bisque, fresh bread, the meal she used to serve to tourists. Also, half the staff is asking about you. Regulars too. Everyone's rooting for you. Tell them thank you. Tell them yourself. When you win. Tuesday night, Nathan's financial documents arrived. Boxes of papers. Thousands of pages. Bank statements dating back 10 years. Corporate filings, tax returns, trust agreements. Becca spread everything across her living room floor, cross-referenced documents with her own research. The pattern emerged clearly. Nathan had been planning this divorce for at least 18 months, moving money systematically, creating shell companies, building the infrastructure to hide assets. Every transfer was documented, every account traceable. He'd been meticulous. But not careful enough. She found the smoking gun at 2 a.m. Wednesday morning. A wire transfer for March 15th. $3 million. From Prescott Maritime Holdings to Prescott Family Trust. The trust document listed Nathan's mother as beneficiary. But Nathan's mother had died in 2022. 3 years ago, he'd created a trust in a dead woman's name. Transferred millions to an account she could never legally control. Pure fraud. Becca photographed everything, built timeline, organized evidence into categories. By dawn Wednesday, she had a case that would destroy Nathan's credibility completely. She submitted the final recertification exam at 6:47 a.m., passed with 94%. The certificate generated automatically. Maine Bar Association seal, valid immediately. She printed it, added it to her portfolio, sent a copy to Judge Hernandez's clerk. At 8:30 a.m., she received the judge's response. Recertification accepted. Trial proceeds Friday, 9 a.m. 48 hours. She'd done it in 48 hours. Wednesday afternoon, Becca met Catherine at the Portland Public Library. Private study room. Door locked. I found it, Becca said. The evidence that destroys his entire case. She spread documents across the table. Highlighted the wire transfer, the trust document, the death certificate proving Nathan's mother died 3 years ago. He put $3 million in a trust controlled by a dead woman, Catherine whispered, which means it's pure fraud. He can't claim it's a legitimate estate planning tool. He can't argue it was for tax purposes. It exists only to hide assets during divorce proceedings. Catherine stared at the papers. This wins the case, this and everything else. Becca pulled out more documents. Look at these signatures. She laid out corporate documents from Prescott Maritime Holdings, transfer agreements, LLC formations, partnership papers. Every document signed with the same red ink, the same distinctive handwriting flourish. Your husband signs everything with a specific pen, Mont Blanc fountain pen, red ink. See the signature style? The way the P in Prescott loops? That's his consistent pattern across 5 years of documents. So, Becca pulled out the trust document, the one supposedly created for his mother. Look at this signature. March 2025, right after he filed for divorce. Same red ink, same pen, same flourish. She pulled out the death certificate. Your mother-in-law died April 2022, 3 years ago. She couldn't have signed this trust document in March 2025. Catherine's eyes widened. He forged her signature. He signed it himself, using his distinctive pen, the same pen he's used for 5 years on every corporate document. Becca smiled. The pen he probably doesn't even think about. The one that's so automatic he didn't realize it would trace back to him. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her own red fountain pen, the Mont Blanc from Sterling and Associates. This pen was a gift when I made senior partner. Rare model, limited production, specific red ink formula, the same pen Nathan uses. How do you know? Because I saw it at the restaurant. He pulled it out to sign credit card receipts. Distinctive clip design, unique cap shape. I recognized it immediately. Becca laid out more documents. Every signature on these fraudulent trusts matches his handwriting pattern, his pen type, his ink. We can prove he created these documents himself, that he forged his dead mother's name, that every asset transfer was deliberate fraud. Catherine was crying. Relief. Vindication. 3 weeks of terror releasing all at once. There's one more thing, Becca said. She pulled out the pre-trial brief, the one Salazar had dropped at the restaurant. Remember when Salazar came to the Harborview with Nathan? He dropped his briefcase. Papers went everywhere. I remember. This document was in that stack. Pre-trial brief dated 3 weeks ago, before they filed official disclosures. Becca pointed to page 7. It lists Nathan's actual assets, including offshore accounts, including the Cayman Islands Trust, including the $4.7 million. But their official disclosure says $2.3 million. Exactly. Becca's voice was cold, which means Salazar knew about the hidden assets 3 weeks ago. He knew before filing official disclosures. He helped Nathan commit fraud, then filed false documents with the court. Can we use this? We have to. It's not just Nathan hiding money anymore. It's his attorney actively participating in fraud. It's discovery violations. It's ethical breaches. Becca organized the papers into a clean stack. This doesn't just win your case, Catherine. This ends Salazar's career. Thursday morning, Becca's phone rang at 7 a.m. Nathan's name on the screen. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Ms. Lawson. His voice was different, less confident. I'd like to discuss settlement. Talk to my client. I'm talking to you. Attorney to attorney. Off the record. Nothing is off the record. Nathan was quiet for a moment. I'll offer $500,000. Clean settlement. No trial. Catherine signs a non-disclosure agreement. We both move on. Becca's grip tightened on the phone. Your official disclosure lists $2.3 million in total assets. You're offering Catherine less than a quarter of what you claim to have. It's a fair offer. It's an insult. It's more than she'll get at trial. Litigation is expensive. You know that. She'll spend everything fighting me. Even if she wins, legal fees will eat the settlement. I'm working pro bono. Silence. Then, you're doing this for free? I'm doing this because you told me I was too old to serve tables. Because you treated Catherine like property. Because men like you think money makes you untouchable. Becca's voice was steel. See you in court tomorrow, Mr. Prescott. Wait. $600,000. Final offer. You're hiding $4.7 million. Catherine is legally entitled to half. $2.35 million. Plus damages for fraud. Plus sanctions for discovery violations. Becca looked at her evidence files. Complete. Organized. Devastating. Your offer is rejected. And when Judge Hernandez sees what you've done, You'll wish you'd been honest from the start. She hung up. 2 minutes later, Catherine called. Nathan just texted. He's offering $600,000. No trial. He says we should take it. Don't. Becca's voice was certain. He's panicking. He knows we found something. He's trying to buy silence before we expose him in court. If he's offering $600,000 now, it means he knows we can prove he's hiding millions. But $600,000 is a fraction of what you deserve. Catherine, he's hiding $4.7 million minimum. You're entitled to half, plus the house, plus retirement accounts, plus compensation for fraud. If you settle now, he wins. He keeps millions. He faces no consequences. And the next woman he marries will face the same trap. Catherine was quiet. Then what do you think I should do? I think you should show up tomorrow morning. Let me present the evidence. Let Judge Hernandez see exactly who Nathan Prescott really is. Becca's voice softened. And then when he's been exposed completely, when his fraud is public record, if he wants to offer real settlement, then we'll consider it. But not before he faces justice. Okay. Catherine's voice was stronger. No settlement. We go to trial. Friday morning, 9 a.m., Cumberland County Courthouse. Courtroom 3. Becca arrived 30 minutes early. Set up her evidence at the plaintiff's table. Laptop. Documents. Organized folders. The leather portfolio open. Red fountain pen ready. Catherine wore a navy dress. Conservative. Professional. She looked nervous, but determined. At 8:55, Nathan walked in with Salazar. Both wore expensive suits. Both carried leather briefcases. Both radiated the confidence of men who'd never lost. Judge Hernandez entered at exactly 9 a.m. Everyone stood. Be seated. This is the matter of Prescott versus Prescott. Divorce proceedings with contested asset division. She looked at both tables. Ms. Lawson, you're representing the plaintiff. Mr. Salazar, you're representing the defendant. I've reviewed preliminary motions. This should be straightforward. Mr. Prescott's financial disclosures list $2.3 million in marital assets. Ms. Lawson, you've alleged additional hidden assets. Present your evidence. Becca stood. Your Honor, the defendant has engaged in systematic fraud to hide $4.7 million in offshore accounts. He's created false trusts. He's forged signatures. And his attorney has knowingly participated in discovery violations. Salazar shot to his feet. Your Honor, those accusations are baseless. My client has provided complete financial disclosure. Ms. Lawson is making wild claims without evidence. I have extensive evidence. Becca approached the bench, handed up document packets. These are wire transfer records showing $3 million moved from Prescott Maritime Holdings to a trust account in the Cayman Islands. Transfer date, March 15, 2025, 2 weeks before Mr. Prescott filed for divorce. Judge Hernandez flipped through pages. Mr. Salazar, the Prescott Family Trust is a legitimate estate planning vehicle created for Mr. Prescott's mother. Mr. Prescott's mother died in April 2022. Becca handed up the death certificate 3 years ago. Yet this trust was supposedly created in March 2025 and supposedly signed by a woman who's been dead for 3 years. The courtroom went silent. Judge Hernandez looked at Nathan. Mr. Prescott, did you create a trust in your deceased mother's name? Nathan shifted. It's a memorial trust established in her honor. A memorial trust with $3 million in it that you failed to disclose during divorce proceedings. The judge's voice was sharp. It's not a marital asset. It's estate property. Your Honor, I have handwriting analysis. Becca presented more documents. Every signature on the trust documents matches Mr. Prescott's handwriting pattern. He signed his own mother's name, using his distinctive red fountain pen, the same pen he uses for all corporate documents, the same pen he used to sign credit card receipts at the Harborview restaurant where I work. Salazar stood. Objection. Counsel's employment is irrelevant. It's completely relevant. Becca's voice carried across the courtroom. Because I watched Mr. Prescott conduct business at that restaurant. I watched him discuss contracts with associates. I watched him sign documents. And I watched him use the same red Montblanc pen that appears on every fraudulent trust signature. She pulled out photographs. These are receipts from the Harborview. Mr. Prescott's signature in distinctive red ink. Now compare them to the trust documents. Identical pen, identical pressure, identical flourish on the capital P. Judge Hernandez studied the documents. Her expression darkened. Mr. Salazar, did you know about these offshore accounts? Your Honor, Simple question. Did you know? Salazar hesitated. Fatal pause. I have evidence that he did, Your Honor. Becca pulled out the pretrial brief, the one Salazar had dropped at the restaurant. This document was prepared 3 weeks ago, before official disclosures were filed. Page 7 lists all of Mr. Prescott's actual assets, including offshore accounts, including the Cayman Islands Trust, including the $4.7 million in hidden wealth. She handed it to the judge. Mr. Salazar knew about these assets 3 weeks ago, then filed disclosure documents claiming only $2.3 million existed. That's not legal error. That's deliberate fraud. Judge Hernandez's face went cold. Mr. Salazar, you filed false disclosures? Those documents were preliminary, not final. They're dated and signed by you as official court filings. The judge looked at Nathan. Mr. Prescott, you've committed fraud. You've forged signatures. You've hidden marital assets. Do you have anything to say? Nathan looked at Salazar. Salazar looked at the floor. Neither spoke. Your Honor, Becca said quietly. There's one more thing the court should know. Becca returned to her table, opened her laptop. 3 weeks ago, Mr. Prescott came to the Harborview with business associates. They discussed the divorce. They discussed asset hiding strategies. They discussed how to, in Mr. Prescott's words, make sure she can't touch the real money. Objection. Salazar's voice cracked. Hearsay. Not hearsay if I have a recording, Your Honor. The courtroom went silent. Becca connected her laptop to the courtroom speakers. Tommy Chin, line cook at the Harborview, runs a podcast about restaurant culture. He records ambient conversations with posted notice at the entrance for content purposes. Legal audio capture in a public space. Maine is a one-party consent state. The recording is admissible. She pressed play. Nathan's voice filled the courtroom. Clear. Unmistakable. Moved the real money offshore. Catherine thinks we have $2 million total. She has no idea about the Cayman accounts. Another voice. One of his business associates. What if she finds out? She won't. I bought her attorney. He's working for my team now. She's got nobody. Just some waitress serving my table. Too old to know anything useful. Too stupid to understand what she's hearing. The recording continued. Nathan laughing. Bragging about manipulating court filings. About hiding money in his dead mother's name. About systematically destroying Catherine's ability to fight back. Then his voice again. Cruel. Dismissive. The words he'd said directly to Becca. You're too old to be serving tables. Should have made better life choices. Becca stopped the recording. The silence was deafening. She looked at Nathan. I was that waitress. The one who was too old. Too stupid. The one you thought couldn't understand what she was hearing. Her voice was steady. Clear. But I understood everything. Because before I was a waitress, I was Rebecca Lawson, senior partner, Sterling and Associates, the attorney who built a career destroying men who hide assets from their wives. She turned to Judge Hernandez. Mr. Prescott thought my life choices made me irrelevant. He thought waiting tables meant I was powerless. He thought age and circumstance had erased my expertise. Becca's voice hardened. He was wrong. Catherine was crying silently, not from sadness, from relief, from vindication, from watching justice finally arrive. Nathan sat frozen, his confidence shattered, his fraud exposed, his words played back for everyone to hear. Salazar had his head in his hands. Judge Hernandez's expression was ice. I've heard enough. Mr. Prescott, you've committed fraud, forgery, and perjury. Mr. Salazar, you violated discovery rules and filed false documents. Both of you will face consequences. Judge Hernandez took off her reading glasses, set them on the bench, looked at Nathan and Salazar with the coldness of 20 years dispensing justice. Mr. Prescott, In 20 years on this bench, I have never seen fraud this blatant. You created trusts in a dead woman's name. You forged signatures. You hid $4.7 million. You bought opposing counsel. You systematically destroyed your wife's ability to defend herself. Her voice cut like steel. You thought you were untouchable. You were wrong. She looked down at her notes. Here's my ruling. Mrs. Prescott is awarded $2.35 million, 50% of the hidden assets, plus the marital home, plus 50% of all retirement accounts, plus $100,000 in compensatory damages for emotional distress, plus attorney's fees, although Ms. Lawson has indicated she's working pro bono. Catherine gasped, grabbed Becca's hand. Additionally, Judge Hernandez continued, I'm ordering sanctions against Mr. Prescott for fraud, $500,000 payable to the court. I'm referring this case to the Maine Attorney General for criminal investigation of forgery and perjury, and I'm forwarding your financial records to the IRS for tax fraud investigation. Nathan's face went white. Mr. Salazar. The judge turned her attention to the attorney. You knowingly filed false disclosures. You participated in hiding assets. You violated discovery rules. I'm sanctioning you personally for $50,000. I'm reporting you to the Maine Bar Association for ethics violations, and I'm recommending suspension of your license pending investigation. Salazar stood. Your Honor, Sit down. I'm not finished. Judge Hernandez's voice could have frozen water. What disgusts me most isn't the fraud. It's the cruelty. Mr. Prescott, you told Ms. Lawson she was too old to serve tables, that she'd made bad life choices. You measured her worth by her job title. You assumed service work meant incompetence. The judge looked at Becca. Ms. Lawson, will you approach the bench? Becca stood, walked forward. I read your case history. The Morrison case, $40 million recovered from hidden offshore accounts. The Chin case, $20 million in shell company assets exposed. The Fitzgerald case, asset recovery that set precedent in 3 states. Judge Hernandez smiled slightly. You're not just competent, Ms. Lawson. You're legendary. And Mr. Prescott's biggest mistake was assuming your job defined your value. She raised her voice, made sure everyone in the courtroom heard. Competence has no expiration date. Dignity isn't determined by job titles. And expertise doesn't disappear just because someone takes a different path for a few years. The judge looked at Nathan. You learned that lesson the expensive way. $2.35 million expensive, plus sanctions, plus criminal referral, plus public humiliation. She banged the gavel. Case concluded. Mrs. Prescott, congratulations. You're free. Mr. Prescott, good luck explaining this to your shareholders. Catherine collapsed against Becca, sobbing. 3 weeks of terror releasing in waves. Becca held her, let her cry, felt her own eyes burning. Behind them, Nathan and Salazar gathered papers in silence. Broken, defeated, justice delivered. If you believe every skill has its moment and every voice deserves to be heard, no matter where that voice comes from or what uniform it wears, subscribe now. Because the most powerful stories are the ones where invisible people become undeniable. Spring arrived in Portland with soft rain and cherry blossoms. Becca stood in front of the building. Old brick, 3 stories, right above the Harborview Grill, the same restaurant where she'd served tables for 3 years, where Nathan Prescott had told her she was too old, where everything had changed. The sign was simple, professional, brass plate beside the door, Lawson Family Law, free consultations, payment plans available. She climbed the stairs, unlocked the office. Small space, 2 rooms, desk, bookshelf, windows overlooking the harbor. Everything she needed. The phone rang constantly now. Women who'd heard about the Prescott case. Women facing divorce. Women whose husbands hid money. Women who'd been told they were too stupid, too old, too broken to fight back. Becca took every case, worked every angle, won every time. Catherine volunteered 3 days a week, answering phones, filing paperwork, meeting with new clients, sharing her story, giving hope to women who thought they had none. Morning, Catherine said, arriving with coffee. 3 new consultations today, 2 tomorrow. We're booked through next month. Good. Becca took a coffee, looked at her schedule. What happened with the Harrison case? Settled yesterday. Her husband offered full disclosure after you sent the asset investigation report. She's getting 60% of marital assets. Excellent. Catherine sat down. 6 months had transformed her. The tight smile was gone. The twisted napkin habit had disappeared. She moved differently now. Confident. Free. Have you heard about Nathan? Catherine asked. Some. He resigned as CEO. Board of directors voted him out. Federal investigation into his business dealings is ongoing. He's facing 3 felony charges. Becca felt no satisfaction, just neutral acknowledgement. Justice wasn't about revenge. It was about balance, accountability, making sure power had limits. And Salazar? She asked. License suspended for 18 months. His firm removed his name. Colton and Associates now. He's working as a consultant. No courtroom privileges. Becca nodded, opened her laptop, started reviewing case files for the day. I still waitress 2 shifts a week, she said. Tuesday and Thursday nights. Catherine looked surprised. Why? You don't need the money. Because it keeps me human. Reminds me what people actually face. What real life costs. Becca smiled. Plus, Denise would kill me if I quit completely. And Tommy makes the best lobster bisque in Portland. You're unusual, you know that? I'm just someone who learned that expertise lives everywhere. In courtrooms and kitchens. In corner offices and dive bars. You don't lose skills because you change jobs. You just find different ways to use them. Thursday night. Becca's shift at the Harborview. 7 o'clock. The dinner rush was building. Tourists, regulars, business dinners. The door chimed. Nathan Prescott walked in. Alone. He looked different. Thinner. Older. The confidence stripped away. He wore jeans. Regular shirt. No Rolex. No platinum credit card visible. Denise started toward him. Protective. Ready to throw him out. Becca shook her head. It's okay. I've got this. She walked to his table. Set down a menu. Good evening. Welcome to the Harborview. Nathan looked up. Met her eyes. I didn't know if you'd serve me. Everyone deserves dinner. I came to apologize. For what I said. For how I treated you. For everything. His voice was quiet. Genuine. You were right. About all of it. I measure people by money. By titles. By surface judgments. And it destroyed everything I had. Becca stayed professional. The halibut is excellent tonight. Fresh catch this morning. Would you like to start with water? I'm serious. I was wrong. About you. About Catherine. About everything. He pulled out an envelope. Set it on the table. This is for you. $1,000. And a note. You can read it later. Or never. But I needed to say I was wrong. You taught me that. Thank you. He stood. Started to leave. Nathan. Becca's voice stopped him. He turned. Order something. You look like you haven't had a decent meal in months. He hesitated, then sat back down. The halibut then, please. Becca brought him water. Took his order. Served his meal. Professional. Dignified. The same way she'd served hundreds of customers over 3 years. When he left, he placed $100 bills on the table. The note said I was wrong. Thank you for teaching me. I'm trying to be better. Becca gave $500 to the staff pool. $500 to the emergency fund Denise kept for servers in crisis. The note went in her desk drawer. Evidence that people could change. Sometimes, if they wanted to. Saturday afternoon. Becca hung 2 frames on her office wall. The first, her Harvard Law diploma. Rebecca Lawson, Juris Doctor. Summa cum laude. The proof of where she'd come from. What she'd earned through 12 years of expertise and sacrifice. The second, her Harborview name tag. Becca. 3 years of service. The proof of where she'd been. What she'd survived when everything fell apart. Both mattered. Both were her. The attorney and the waitress. The expert and the survivor. Skills didn't disappear because life changed. They just waited, ready to emerge when needed most. Her phone buzzed. Email from Sterling and Associates. Subject line, partnership reinstatement offer. She stared at it. The firm that had destroyed her career. the partner who'd stolen her work, the system that had decided she was expendable. Now, they wanted her back. Senior partnership, full benefits, corner office, signing bonus. Her finger hovered over the email. Open it. Read the terms. Consider the offer. But she thought about the 3 consultations scheduled for Monday, about Catherine volunteering in the next room, about the women calling every day who needed someone to fight from, about the life she'd built from broken pieces. She closed the email, didn't delete it, just left it unread. Maybe someday she'd open it. Maybe she'd respond. Maybe she'd consider going back to that world. But not today. Today, she had clients who needed her, a community that believed in her, a practice that meant something beyond billable hours and partnership politics. Today, she was exactly where she needed to be. The office phone rang. Another woman needing help. Another story of hidden assets and broken trust. Another chance to show that dignity had no expiration date. Becca picked up the phone. Lawson Family Law. This is Becca. How can I help you? Outside, Portland's harbor stretched toward the horizon. Boats bobbing. Gulls circling. Spring sun painting everything gold. The same view she'd seen from the Harborview's windows for 3 years. The same city where she'd rebuilt herself. She was home, and she was exactly who she needed to be. Thank you for witnessing Becca's story. If this reminder that our worth transcends our titles moved you, subscribe for 3 new stories weekly of ordinary people who proved the powerful wrong. Because the most important lessons come from the people we least expect. And the strongest voices often belong to those we've trained ourselves not to hear. Hit subscribe. Turn on notifications. Share this story with someone who needs to remember their own power. We'll see you in the next one.